Hey everyone, welcome again to another 360 Timmy. So today we're in Kingsnorth in Kent, and today my special guest is Mike Ryan. Welcome.
Hello.
Mike. Mike's going to talk to us today about longevity and many other things, and in his amazing garden.
Yeah,
here we
welcome to the garden.
Absolutely.
Starting with the koi pond. It's a lovely place to sit and relax. Bit noisy right now.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd start with a wander around the back garden.
Absolutely, yeah.
And actually I want to show you, I've effectively moved my house into the countryside without actually having to move house.
It's amazing.
It's just a little bit of luck really that when I moved here, Knights Park was going to be built right behind my garden.
So that's a big new modern housing estate.
I was expecting to be, in the middle of a housing estate, but when they started building, they found Roman remains. So this was the area where the original Roman Ashford was.
Wow.
And so it's been protected as ancient monument land, which means I've been able to open up south facing and enjoy this feeling of being in the countryside.
And you were saying earlier you've just rewilded this area here.
Yeah, this little area here, I'm delighted with how effective it's been. My daughter Sophie studied rewilding at university, and so I felt I ought to get a little bit involved. There was just like £20 worth of wildflower seeds off Amazon, literally. I wasn't expecting it to be quite so delightful, and then we're hoping that the seeds will spread and we'll add a lot more wildflowers for bees and all sorts of insects, and that will bring more birds and so on.
Well, and you can see today, I mean, the amount of bees hovering over this fantastic warm summer's evening we're in at the moment. It's incredible. Yeah. So we're going to talk about longevity. We'll come on to what that means in a minute. I guess probably just get a flavour of your background, because you've got I was reading your bio, you've got quite an interesting background. So you started in farming originally.
I did, yeah. When I left school, I couldn't face the thought of sitting behind a desk all day, so I thought, well, what can I do outside? And I got a job on a farm, and then I realised I'd have to move on from that by going to college, studied horticulture at a local county college in Essex, and then came down this way to study a degree at Wye College, which is part of the University of London. Well, it's gone now, unfortunately.
It was, very well known at the time, wasn't it? And you had a spell in Australia as well.
Just point this out while we're here. Look at this lucky free crop that I've got on my doorstep.
That is incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
And as I was saying, not spoiled by cars going past or anything like that. So.
Well, I shall be harvesting those very soon.
But you had a spell in Australia as well?
Yeah, my parents moved out to Australia when I was 4 years old. We lived in Tasmania for 2 years. My mother didn't settle down. My father liked it, but mother didn't, so we came back.
So it was going to be an emigration, but it didn't quite pan out that way.
It didn't work out, yeah.
So you came back to UK and then took up the horticulture.
Yeah, my father worked on farms for part of his life, and I guess I'm not the sort of person who likes to sit down working all day. So it was good to get involved in horticulture. Most of my working life, for the first 20 years anyway, I worked as a horticultural consultant, advising to start with farmers here in Kent, and then wider afield, and eventually around the world. So I had the good fortune of getting paid to travel around the world.
That's incredible.
As far away as Australia, America, Argentina, Mexico, all through Europe.
Hawaii?
And I had a very lucky trip to Hawaii to give advice to an Englishman who'd moved out there with his family to grow strawberries.
Crikey.
Strawberries was my expertise. I was known as Mr. Strawberry years ago. My only involvement now is eating them, which is a healthy thing to do anyway.
That must be, so when you go to the supermarket and you pick up strawberries, are you very critical of how they taste and how they don't taste, I suppose? It's all processed.
Yeah, it is tempting.
So the story of longevity, so this is where we got talking at a local gym actually, and you were talking, I'd never heard of it before, but I think you're saying that you had a divorce around 2002.
Yeah.
And you kind of made a pledge to yourself that you wanted to get past that and you wanted to live to 100.
Yeah, well, actually, I can tell you a story. One day, I was walking across this lawn.
Yeah.
I was very unfit as a married man. My wife loved cooking pasta meals. I was well overweight, and I was walking across here with a wheelbarrow, and I remember stopping halfway across the lawn,
Yeah.
out of breath. And I thought, this is terrible to have got into this state.
And what sort of age would you have been at that point?
Mid-40s,
Yeah.
so just over 20 years ago. And yeah, so I determined I've got to get healthy. And divorce was painful, but it also carried benefits that I got more hours in bed asleep, better time with my children, and I got fit again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were telling me that you take about 80 supplements a day?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's gradually crept up and up and up.
That's not. Is that all in tablet form, or is that in the form of drink, or the form of some food?
Various, but mostly tablets, capsules. Yeah.
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 So what we're going to do is slightly different format. We're not going to walk around as much as we normally do on 360 to me, but you've set up some stations around your amazing garden, and we're going to go through the longevity cycle, I guess, or themes.
Okay.
So where we're heading to first?
So we start by the pond.
Yeah, no
and just
problem.
cover some sort of general stuff.
Yep.
I love to come and sit here and watch the fish and relax.
It's incredibly relaxing as well. That fantastic waterfall.
Not too noisy?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, how about a seat?
Yeah, no problem.
Let's relax. So, yeah, but just over 20 years ago, going through divorce, it's a painful thing. I had to move forwards, so I made some goals for myself. And one of them was to enjoy my 100th birthday. And, well, to enjoy your 100th birthday, you've got to be alive, and you've got to be happy and healthy. So I gave it quite a lot of thought. What would it take to actually be alive when you're 100 and in good shape? You know, I don't want to be ill for 20 years from 80 to 100. I want to be in good health. So I put a lot of effort into what does it take. And one of the aspects, a simple way of thinking about it, is the average person ages 12 months per year. But if you want to speed that up for some reason, then drink lots of alcohol, smoke, don't exercise, don't get enough sleep, be stressed, and you could probably get through 18 months of your life per year. But if you want to slow it down, which I wanted to do, we'll cover all the longevity aspects as we walk around the garden in a moment. But my theory was you could slow things down so you only age 8 months per year. So you extend your life. So that was the basic concept. And then one of the other things I would like to point out to people is my attitude is to use the 80-20 rule. How can I get 80% of the effort, a benefit, with 20% of the effort? And that sounds lazy, but it's quite a good way to achieve things in life. Because otherwise you exhaust yourself trying to get to the 100%. 80% is often enough. And
so I guess, you were discussing earlier being on the lawn and being overweight and unfit. So I guess that most people would just start down the gym or get on the treadmill and do radical diets. But obviously that wasn't for you the first step. No,
for me, I decided to think of it in three aspects: health, wealth, and happiness.
Okay.
And they all interrelate, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, happiness is basically mental health, so it's an aspect of health. And if you want to be happy and have a good lifestyle, then wealth helps that. So I must admit, in the early years, I spent a lot of effort into thinking about how to become wealthy enough not to have to work for somebody else, and to be able to choose how I spend my time.
And that must have been a balance, because that could be quite stressful.
Yeah, it certainly was in the early days. I remember I'd flown over to California to give advice to strawberry growers in California, and on the trip back from San Francisco to London, I bought a book which became quite famous called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I read the entire book on the flight back, and it seemed to me, if I don't follow this concept, in 10 years time I'll be full of regret, so I'm going to do it. So I took the risk and decided to build a property portfolio. That was my route to becoming, well, I'm going to call it financially free, to get enough income that then I could choose what I do with my time. I still choose to work, but I don't have to work. So it gives me more time.
I guess keeping active and not getting bored are key things to stop depression and dark times, I guess.
Yeah, I think, going through divorce, I can remember it was difficult. I still loved my ex at the time. She was the one I wanted to leave. But then benefits started to show up, getting more sleep, getting healthier, spending time with my daughters, being a parent in the way that I wanted to be a parent. So there were lots of benefits that eventually spilled out from a difficult situation.
Yeah.
And one of my sort of expressions in life is that every adversity has got the seed of a greater good in it. Some people say every cloud has a silver lining. It's a similar thing. So when you're in a difficult place, and let's face it, everyone in life will go through difficult times, look for the opportunity and then start focusing on that.
Yeah.
And then that can draw you out from that dark place. And that's what I did.
Sounds good. So where's our next station?
Well, when it comes to longevity and health, there are quite a few different aspects. So what I've done, Tim, is I've put something on all of the seats in my garden, so that we can be reminded of a part of what it takes to improve the quality of your life and the length of your life. So I thought we'd start with the dumbbells that I've put in my garden.
I'm not going to be doing any exercise, I might just say that.
No, they're very,
well, I hope
they're
not,
very
anyway.
light dumbbells, Tim. Yeah, so I'm sure you could manage these, like 4 kilos.
Yep. Okay, I think I might put the camera up here, actually.
I think if you asked a lot of people what's the most important aspect of health, they would probably look at diet, and obviously that is important. I personally think if somebody said to me, I'm 67 years old, how have I kept in good health? And I probably look somewhat younger than I actually am. And I put the number one aspect down to exercise.
Yeah.
And the two important parts of exercise are cardio fitness, and the other is strength. Because as you get older, they say you lose between 1 and 2% of your strength per year if you don't exercise. Well, I'm still using the same weights in the gym that I used in my 20s.
Yeah.
So you don't need to lose your strength. And cardio obviously is important because we need our heart to continue to beat, we need our lungs to work well, and we need a vibrant blood system. So that's really important as well. And then I think the other side of exercise I would say that is important is something that you enjoy. Like it might be tennis, it might be golf, whatever sport, whatever activity it is. I enjoy tennis, I enjoy yoga, I enjoy cycling. I think probably my favorite is walking in nature, which is really good for your mental health. You just get away from the world, go into the forest for a couple of hours. I usually take a picnic with me and I come out super relaxed. It's just a great form of
definitely
exercise.
Good for upstairs.
And it's good for you getting rid of stress, for sure.
I wonder what you think. So you go to a popular gym with all kind of age groups, and obviously you probably understand on social media and Instagram there's all kinds of people now doing fitness, and you'll see young people videoing themselves and offering support. I mean, how many times a week do you go? How long are your sessions?
Well, for most of my life I used to go in the evening after working all day. I've changed that round now. I go at lunchtime.
Yeah.
So I work in the morning 4 hours or so, then go down to the gym and start with cardio, then do some weights, finish with some stretching. I tend to do it five days a week.
Yeah.
Finish off with sauna.
So what, an hour or two?
I'm probably in the gym for about an hour and a half, and then I'll come out and I might go for a short walk or go back to work for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
What, you know, it's my choice. So
it's just interesting because, as I said, you see a lot of young people and they're 5, 6, 7 days a week. They're 2 or 3 hours. They're videoing. It's meticulous. They never let it off. It's you seem to have you've been doing it a lot longer, and you seem to have a much more relaxed, making it work for you kind of regime.
Yeah, it's a part of that 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
I want a good result, but I want a life and a lifestyle. I don't want to be in the gym all day and have to follow really tough rules.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to take a reasonably relaxed attitude to it, and obviously going in the sauna, that's about as relaxed as you can be.
Yes.
And yet there's a lot of health benefits. You know, the evidence shows that people who regularly go into saunas, they have half the risk of heart problems, 63% less risk of Alzheimer's. So the benefits are, you know, enormous.
Yeah.
And yet all you're doing is sitting there, usually chatting with
I was
someone.
going to say that.
Yeah.
I think that's an additional benefit, isn't it? Because whilst you're doing that, and potentially sometimes taking your mind off the time because it gets hotter and hotter, I find I can stay in longer if I'm having a good conversation with somebody.
Yeah,
and I have had so many. I mean, you're a classic example. You know, there's 3 or 4 people in there. We get chatting. We were chatting to another guy about his business,
starting a business.
Yeah. I mean, it's just fantastic. I think. I mean, I almost wish I could do a podcast in a sauna. It'd be a very weird one, but the levels of conversation whilst you're sitting there and enjoying that.
Yeah, well, it's good because people are relaxing.
Yeah,
they want to chat, and you know, you can't really disturb people while they're exercising. So the one time in the gym when you can chat is in the sauna.
Is in the wooden box.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, should we move on to the next aspect?
Absolutely.
So we've covered exercise.
Yeah,
I personally treat that as the single most important thing to stay healthy and hopefully to have a long life. We're talking about longevity. So if we go to this spot here, people say to me, do you like gardening then, Mike? And I say, well, not really, even though I've got a lovely garden. Weeding and so on, I don't particularly enjoy it, but it is, you know, the only way to have a nice garden. But what I do enjoy is sitting relaxing in the garden. So I've got all these lovely places to sit and relax. And I come out with a tea or coffee. Sometimes I'll work out here. Behind us I've just put in some climbing roses. They're all scented, so in a year or two this can be a
amazing,
lovely smell, as well as
it's a nice spot for the sun
a lovely
this time of day as well, wasn't it?
Catch the sun in the evening. Now look, I put this here because it's the nearest I could find to an alarm clock. I think we all use our phones these days.
We do, don't we?
But I did used to use this in the past, and the idea of this was to wake you up slowly in the morning with this light slowly coming on and music gently playing. I must admit I don't use it any longer, but the reason I wanted to bring this out was I read a book on sleep, and the thing that stuck most in my mind, very simple piece of advice, is everyone sets an alarm to get themselves up in the morning, but it would be more wise to set an alarm to send yourself to bed in the evening.
Yeah.
You know what time you've got to get up. If you want 8 hours sleep, I always aim to be in bed for 8.5 hours.
Yeah.
And I reckon I'm asleep for 8 hours of that.
Yeah.
And so I know what time I've got to go to bed, so I set an alarm.
Yeah.
So that was...
To be fair, phones do that now, don't they? You get a little reminder to say it's bed. You've set a bedtime and you expect to get up at 8 or 7 or 6 or...
So I think I try to do that, and I think it's a good idea. Otherwise, I'd sit watching a film till midnight or something and regret it. So
do you ever struggle with sleep though? Because getting 8 hours, I personally find with my life, I find 8 hours very difficult to achieve.
Right.
I got 8 hours. Funny enough, 8 hours last night. I got a notification on my phone this morning. You've set a record. You've actually slept 8 hours because I don't often.
Well done.
And I don't know what was different about last night. Maybe I don't know. Had too much to drink before I went to bed. No, it wasn't that one. But you get things in life that stress you out, don't you? That you take to bed with you. And there's obviously things like don't watching TV before you go to bed.
Yeah. I have 1 or 2 relaxing exercises. I get into bed, I lie on my back, and I don't fall asleep when I'm on my back. As soon as I turn on my side, I'm asleep.
Yeah.
And I just do these relaxing exercises, let go of any stress, and make sure I'm completely relaxed, and then I'll fall asleep. And I would say, if anyone's not getting as much sleep as they would like, exercise is the secret. If you get exercise into your life, you're going to sleep longer.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, one of the other ways that I can get longer sleep is to eat carbs late in the evening. You know, if I eat some toast or something. But that's not what I want to do, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's I avoid that. But yeah, exercise definitely improves sleep.
Yeah.
And getting rid of stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't take stress to bed with you.
Yeah, that's easier said than done.
Easier
sometimes.
said than done. Yeah. We'll come on to that later. I want to cover mental health. I think that's a really important subject.
Yeah.
So I've put something out on another seat, so we're reminded to bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how about food and diet?
Yeah,
because
that sounds
obviously
good.
is important.
That's very important. Yeah.
But
are we off to McDonald's?
Unfortunately, I don't think that's the answer.
No. I love this garden. Every corner of it's different. It's incredible.
So even these steps here that I built, I wanted to work with stones, so I built these steps. It was a bit elaborate. Took 10 solid days of work to do it, but it's been there now for about 15 years. So
that's incredible.
Just started to crumble in odd places, so it needs a bit of fixing, but
it's looking good.
And then I try to keep my gardening simple, so I'm not out weeding all the time. So all this lot here on this bank, they're all alpine plants. They cover the ground, not too many weeds, and then alpines on that side of the garden at the back, and then the rest of it, they're all herbaceous perennials. So they die down to the ground in the winter. In the spring, just take all the dead growth off and let it all come back again.
Looks that over there, that looks amazing.
And then I have this thing obviously about palm trees. You can see I've got quite a few tropical looking trees in the garden.
It does certainly make you think you're not in England as well. It's very good. And they're fairly maintenance free.
Yeah,
quite hardy.
They're very hardy.
Yeah.
They naturally grow in a very cold part of China where the winters are -10, so they are surprisingly
to the
hardy.
extreme, yeah.
Yeah, so if we're going to talk about diet for a few minutes, and I just decided to share with you that I decided to try this intermittent fasting. I've been doing that for a while. I don't bother to eat breakfast. I realised I was eating breakfast, but I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
So I just have a decaf coffee first thing in the morning now, and that's it. And my first meal is actually after the gym. I find I can train better on an empty stomach. So this is what I take with me. I take some berry fruits and nuts with a piece of dark chocolate, which is actually very good for you.
Yeah.
And then what I call my chia pudding. And if you're wondering about this strange colour, this is dragon fruit.
Crikey.
Freeze-dried dragon fruit.
Yeah, I'll just bring the camera over to that, I think, so we can see that.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I thought I'd just show you the ingredients that go in that.
So you literally have that at the gym or just after?
Yes, after I finish at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, this little lot with a protein drink.
Yeah.
And I would say that the average person tends to eat too much of all the macronutrients. We have too much fat, we have too much protein, and too much carbs.
Yeah.
But we don't have enough fibre. So I try to get a reasonable amount of fibre in my diet by eating plenty of veg, legumes, fruit. But a few months ago, I decided, well, I'm going to put up the amount of fibre in my diet. So I make these chia puddings. It's something my daughter suggested to me. She's been doing it for quite a few years. So the ingredients here: my chia seeds,
Yeah.
linseed, which I would advise people, by the way, if they want to do linseed, buy whole seeds and get a coffee grinder and grind them yourself.
Yeah.
Because they're very fresh. They taste nutty. Otherwise, if you buy pre what would you call that? Pre-ground linseeds, they start to become a bit rancid. It's obviously not going to be as healthy. I add oat bran, a bit of olive oil. Actually, I'd say something about olive oil. I don't know if you know the story about Manuka honey, but apparently
which is
there's
incredibly expensive.
10 times as much Manuka honey eaten in the world as is produced.
Crikey.
So 90% of it is fake.
Yeah.
And I'm told that the Chinese developed a taste that exactly mimics Manuka honey. So I wouldn't advise anyone to waste their money by Manuka honey. Now, unfortunately, olive oil has gone a little bit the same way.
Yeah.
There's more olive oil eaten than is produced. So I always buy it online. Quite expensive source, but I can be guaranteed that I'm actually having quality olive oil.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do that, spend my money on olive oil than expensive wine, for example.
Yeah. I take it alcohol's an absolute no-no for you now, or do you?
I don't drink much, but I do have the occasional drink.
Yeah.
Celebratory, bubbly occasionally. When I go on holiday, I certainly drink lager in the evening.
Yeah.
And the occasional glass of wine with a meal.
But it's just measured.
But just not large amount.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing that goes in is wheat germ.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about that when we talk about supplements, because there's a magical ingredient in wheat germ.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that open and I'll tell you about it in a moment.
Okay.
It's something that most people don't know about it, and it's probably one of the most important longevity supplements. So we'll get to that when we start talking about supplements.
No problem.
Right.
Okay.
Can I just get my bottle of water, Tim?
Yeah, no problem.
Are you okay with
Yeah, I'll walk up that way, yep. Very different at 360 to me, where we're not walking everywhere.
Yeah. What do you think of my sculpture here, Tim?
Fantastic. Absolutely.
Yeah. An interesting story about this. I had a desire to build a sculpture that was cubic, and I just happened to online spot that salt granules have this shape under an electron microscope.
Yeah.
And so I made these, and the idea of this is it's supposed to represent excess. You know, one has fallen off, because humans mostly have an excess of salt in their diet.
Yeah.
I don't think it's actually the most serious thing that we have too much of. Sugar, I would say, is probably the number one problem that we have an excess of, particularly because it leads to diabetes. Diabetes leads to all sorts of health problems. So that's what that one represents. And then the other one, if you can see, it's almost the exact opposite. And the idea there was it's a yin and yang concept. And I think yin and yang is quite important, because a lot of people, they think they've got to be good, and that's represented by this lovely, cream coloured sculpture, whereas the black one is representing the darker side. I think a lot of us, we cut off part of our nature.
Yeah.
We're animals at some level. We get angry, we get irritable, and so on.
Yeah.
And I personally think it's healthier to be able to accept that side of ourselves.
Absolutely. And you learn lessons, don't you, by the way you react to things. And I think...
Yeah. I might feel angry and a bit extreme, maybe feel like punching somebody in the face or something. I'd never do it.
Yeah.
But I accept that. That's part of human nature.
Yeah.
And you choose not to do it. But I don't feel that I'm bad just because I have that
It's there in the background.
anger
Yeah.
or annoyance or whatever it is. It's part of who we are.
I suppose sometimes anger can make you a little bit more determined and focus you a little bit as well, because maybe you have a setback and you get very angry about it, but you then turn yourself around. You come up with another strategy to try and resolve the issue that caused the anger, and sometimes you take another path, don't you?
That's a really good point, Tim, because I think when I first started building a property business, I was very angry. I was angry about the problems of divorce, the financial problems, as well as many other emotional problems and so on. And I was angry, but I used that angry sort of feeling to keep going forwards. And when you feel angry, you don't feel fear. So that what I was doing was very risky, building a portfolio with no money. I literally borrowed every penny of it.
Yeah.
So it was a risky thing to do, but the anger drove it. And then after about 4 years, I worried that the anger might cause heart problems, and I literally actually sought therapy to get rid of the anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was the strategy that was? So what was the strategy that they suggested?
Well, it was a long while ago now. I went to see somebody who was a specialist in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
Which I used quite a lot at the time. And one of the things is to reframe what something means. So if something is making you angry, you could reframe it. Instead of "this person's made me angry, I'm angry," this person I don't need in my life, they irritate me.
Yeah.
And just reframe it as "thank you, that person's out of my life," or whatever. So that's probably how I dealt with it.
That's interesting, because your anger was around the property portfolio. So in terms of people, was it more tenants, or was it the people you having to deal with?
Yeah, I must admit, I built a portfolio based on HMOs, so shared rooms. And one of the things that we discovered fairly early on is if somebody didn't pay their rent one week, and virtually all of our tenants pay monthly now, but years ago it was quite often quite common to pay weekly cash. If somebody didn't pay one week or didn't pay to the bank, then somebody else in the same household would suddenly not pay their rent.
Yeah, like a domino effect.
Because they, well, Tom got away with it, therefore I can get away with it.
Yeah.
So I did get quite angry with tenants that didn't pay at one time, but I'm not involved directly in that now. I have staff who do that work for me.
Yeah, but you must have gone through. I mean, so that was 20 odd years ago. So you've been all kinds of fun. We're in a bit of a downturn now and a cost of living crisis and recent change of government. But you've seen quite a bit of that over those years. Quite a bit of turmoil. The banking crisis that must have made you very nervous with a property portfolio. There's the current stuff they're talking about now with the change of the tenants' rights, that kind of stuff.
Certainly for me, the credit crunch, as they called it, was at 2008, 2009. That was the most difficult time for me. I really had a worry as to whether I could survive.
Yeah.
Lower interest rates really rescued me.
Yeah.
And so it all worked out okay. And also I realised that to some extent, if you're not careful, your ego can get caught up in what you're doing. And I used to go to landlord meetings, and everyone would be saying how many properties they owned.
Yeah.
Some sort of badge of, to me, representing their ego. So I decided to move away from that and stop buying properties and start buying liquid assets. So I got involved with the stock market and trading and so on. Because if you want to sell a house because you're short of money, it might take months.
Yeah.
Whereas I can sell stocks and I'll have the money in my bank account in 3 days. So I've de-risked. Yeah.
And we've got supplements here.
Yeah. So supplements. people have a different attitude about supplements. I find them quite important, really. So I thought I'd just show you one or two of the vitamin D. I think would be my first choice. If I could only take one supplement, it would be vitamin D. It just gives so many benefits. And I would say to people, if they are taking vitamin D, make certain you take K2, vitamin K2 with it.
Yeah.
Because vitamin D has all sorts of benefits, but one of the things it does do is it mobilizes calcium.
Yeah.
And you want to get it into your bones. And K2 does that, vitamin K2. If you don't take the K2, you're getting calcium into your bloodstream, which could be unhealthy.
Yeah.
It could, lead to calcification in your arteries. I happened to see a program on television not so long ago about every single astronaut who goes into space has a choice of what diet they take with them, and they all choose prunes, apparently.
Right.
Now you might think this is because it helps them to go.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's because prunes are very high in vitamin K2, and it helps to keep their bones strong. You know, when you're in space, you lose muscle mass, you lose bone strength, and so on. So
it's quite interesting.
It's quite interesting. If it's right for them, it's probably
but
right.
You don't get your dose of K2 via prunes, then you prefer supplements.
So sorry, say that again, Tim.
So you don't get your source of K2 from prunes yourself. You'd rather take supplements.
I do actually. I forgot to put them on there today, but my chia pudding normally has 2 prunes on top. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's your.
Yeah, there you go. Now number 2, I guess a lot of people haven't heard of this one.
I haven't. No.
Boswellia serrata. Funny enough, Boswellia serrata is frankincense.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
The Bible talks about the 3 wise kings or whatever.
That's it. Yeah.
Going to visit Jesus. They took frankincense, myrrh, and gold.
Yes.
And it was only fairly recently that I realised the gold represented wealth.
Yeah.
The Boswellia represented health.
Yeah.
And myrrh back then was a mild drug to get you high.
Yeah.
So that represented happiness.
Wow.
So they were taking health, wealth, and happiness to Jesus.
In that, crikey.
But if anyone has any problems with inflammation, I find this amazing. Really, really effective.
What format does that come in? Is that are all these supplements normally in these small capsules with?
Yeah,
is it jellies
this one is as a powder in a vegetarian capsule.
Yeah,
you can get them in tablet form. But yeah, so that would be number 2.
Yeah, and
then as you get older, inflammation does become an issue. So through the other supplements that I take, turmeric, ginger root, which as well as being anti-inflammatory is very kind on your stomach, and I also take fish oil supplements.
Yeah.
So we're not going to cover the whole 80 odd supplements that I take, but I did want to talk about this one. Unfortunate name. I don't know if you can pick that up, Tim. Spermidine.
Spermidine. All right. Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
It's unfortunate that it's got that name, but it was first discovered by somebody in the 17th century, I think, who discovered this chemical in sperm, the crystals. But in reality, spermidine is found in many different foods. And there was a study done some years ago, I think it was about 140 different substances, and they analysed the levels in a group of people over a period of many years. And the one that most closely correlated with health and longevity was spermidine. So people with high levels of spermidine, they had healthier, longer lives. And they found everyone over 100 years old had unusually high levels of spermidine naturally. And what foods contain a lot of spermidine? Soya contains a lot, but wheat germ is number 1.
Yeah.
Which is why I put the wheat germ into my chia pudding to get that spermidine. What does spermidine do? Have you heard of autophagy?
No.
Autophagy literally means self-eating. The body can go into this state where it gets rid of damaged cells, damaged mitochondria, and then uses that material to rebuild healthy mitochondria healthier cells. So if your body doesn't go into this autophagy state, then you build up senescent cells. You age. We're all going to age anyway, but you're speeding it up. So this is one way that you could slow down the aging process. There are other things you can do. You can fast, that also causes autophagy, and exercise, intense exercise. So that may be one of the reasons why exercise is so healthy. But
I'm curious how because we've all had periods where we've had to take antibiotics and twice a day, and you write things down. How do you remember to take all this? Or have you just built it, like the chia pudding example, have you just built this into so many parts of your day that those 80 supplements?
What I do, to be honest, is once a week I take these little plastic jars and I put my supplements into the jars.
Like pill planning,
So all I've got to do is I take one with me to the gym and have it with my protein milkshake, and I have another one in the evening. So I make life easy that way. To start with, it used to take ages every day. Yeah. Now I've made it.
Because they presumably all have doses that you have to, different levels of doses that you have to take. Maybe it's two of those, one of those.
Yeah. What I've done is I've put a coloured dot.
Oh, I wonder what they were. So you got some on that one as well.
Yeah. So that coloured dot means put one capsule per day, and the blue is actually my lunch. So that goes into
brilliant.
So I do believe in making life easy for myself.
Absolutely, 80-20. I like that again. That's good.
So turmeric I do take quite a lot of. So two into lunch, one into the evening, and at the moment I'm just experimenting with taking a small amount of supplements early in the morning. That's something quite new. So I don't know whether I'll carry on with that.
I assume this is pretty expensive, because when I go to places like Holland and Barrett, other health stores are available. It seems to be quite pricey, some of these supplements. So how do you get around that? Do you buy in bulk?
They are expensive. I mean, I'm lucky enough now to have enough cash to spend quite a bit on supplements. But what I would like to see is it's not just the cost, but also the bulk.
Yeah.
Every one of these supplements has usually got some kind of bulking agent in it.
Yeah.
I try to make certain it's something like rice flour or something harmless.
Yeah.
But some of them they still use things like silicon dioxide and so on. So I try to avoid those. But there's no reason why you couldn't have, say, 5 or 6 supplements in one capsule that are all directed at being anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
And there are 1 or 2 people starting to do that now. There's a guy online in America called Brian Johnson, known as the Blueprint Guy. He started selling supplements in that way, and I'm looking into it at the moment. I'm tempted to do it myself.
Yeah, it sounds like you've got
because it just seems to me at the moment people are paying too much for supplements.
Yeah,
they're ingesting all this additive that they don't need.
Yeah,
and one capsule could contain what I have to take 5 or 6 different supplements.
Yeah.
So,
I guess that's dicey, because, as you mentioned, some things spoil quicker than others, and you have to be, I guess, careful when you mix things together that in storage that doesn't spoil.
Yeah,
and
you would only mix powders, for example. You wouldn't mix oils and so on. But so I've got one other aspect to move on to.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just thought, we should cover mental health.
Definitely.
So
definitely.
I've got another chair for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's super important, mental health. I've covered that a fair bit myself this year on my own show and others, and yes, very important indeed.
Yeah, so this little device was to remind me to talk about mental health. This is actually a medical device. It's called Alpha Stim.
Yeah.
And you literally just clip it onto your ears with a little bit of saline solution, by the way, because otherwise it would be prickly. And then switch it on for about 20 minutes. And what it does, it passes a tiny electric current that you can hardly notice. And it trains your brain waves down to an alpha state. which is a calm state.
Yeah.
So beta is your stressed state or your very active state. So if you want to calm down, it's a very effective way of doing it. I'm not saying it's the only way. There are other products out there. Some people find meditation effective, and I certainly find walking effective. But what I like about this is you can put it on while you're busy doing something else.
Yeah.
You know, I can be reading, I can be working. If I'm feeling a little bit stressed, I just put this on.
Could you use that if you were about to go to sleep? Would that be something that could calm you down before sleep?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And you know, if you think about people's typical mental health problems, they're usually either that sort of anxiety side of things, panic, anxiety, stress, or the other side, depression, and so on. Yeah. And so we all find our own ways of dealing with those. I find I can very effectively deal with the anxiety side of life now by walking and so on. If I get a bit down, I personally, my choice is a thing called breathworks. Yeah. And basically what that involves is I usually do it with somebody I know, a couple called Chris and Sally, who do it near Canterbury. And by doing this breathing technique, which you focus your mind on, your conscious mind, it lets the subconscious mind bubble up what's bothering you. Yeah. So you can deal with it because you become aware of it. A lot of mental ill health is caused by us suppressing something.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
You know, for me, it can be turning anger inwards. Yeah. You know, I'm angry with myself, but I don't realize it. And I used to give talks years ago, and I used to say I'm fairly flexible about what you should do in life, but there are two things, and I would say always do this and never do that. Yeah. So I'm going to just bring those up now. The always do was a wealth related one, which was always take your money for the month or whatever and put some of it into an investment. Yeah. Put it to one side, don't spend it. And if you make that habit of spending less than you earn, that leads to happiness and health anyway, as well as wealth. And then the other one that I used to say never do is never beat yourself up. Yeah. Because we all have a bit of a habit of doing that. Well, I certainly do. Yeah. And I find that can affect me badly. Yeah. So I remind myself not to do that. You know, be kind to yourself. If something's gone a bit wrong, okay, let's learn from it, but don't beat yourself up. It doesn't work as a strategy. It's interesting. I think when I'm down, that is probably the first thing I do, and I don't know why. I don't know why. Yeah, come on, pull yourself out of it. Yeah, I start feeling sorry for myself, and I'm not going to do that anymore. And why have I done that? Is are you affected by one of the things I suffer badly with? Is I learned to my cost this probably this year is seasonally affective disorder. I've known about it for a while, and I have taken supplements. I think it's HTTP or something like that. I think it's called. I always get this wrong. This supplement, but it's supposed to help you get through. 5-HT. That's the one. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah. But I don't think that helped me this year. Whatever it was this year, I don't know. But I'm always been aware that I love this time of year. Sit down. This is it. Sit down in the garden. Yeah. But if we're here in November. Yeah, I'm not having a good time at all. Yeah. I would love your garden, but it'd be cold. I certainly know that feeling, and I bought one of those sad lights. Yeah. So I have this light by my desk in the winter. So I did try that. I just felt I was in red light district all the time, rather than it helping me. Maybe I bought a cheap one, but I think the other thing I try to do in the winter, even though the weather's not always great, is just get outside and get some sunlight if there is some sunlight, and get some exercise, walking in forests or whatever. So I try to do that, but otherwise, the winter can certainly get me down. Yeah. Well, that's brilliant, Mike. Thank you very much. I'm sure we probably have other things we can cover, but maybe we'll come back and see you another time. It's well, you'd be welcome. Fantastic, and I really want to see how you get on with your supplements as well. That if you can make that a little bit easier on people, I think that'd be, well, it's going to take some work, but I think it'd be worth doing. I think there is a better route to supplements than the way they are presented at the moment. But for now, thanks everybody, and you have a super day.